Kim, what is our second main topic today?
This comes from Nicholas A. Despite the ongoing pandemic and Omicron variant fears, Spider-Man No Way Home has now achieved a milestone by becoming the first, this is incredible, the first movie to hit $1 billion in the COVID pandemic era. Not only that, it's also the highest grossing movie of 2021. What are your thoughts about the movie's accomplishments and the future of cinema, especially as No Way Home has yet to receive a China release?
I mean, look, we have been talking a lot lately about the success and trajectory and all this kind of stuff of Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, look, this can't be emphasized enough because I feel like even now people are overlooking this. The fact that this has hit $1 billion, it is a big deal when a new member of the $1 billion club comes along, right? Whenever there's a new member of the $1 billion club, that's a big deal. The fact that it did it so quickly, we'll talk about that a little bit more, is a big deal. The fact that it is the biggest film in the pandemic era is a big deal, but that part aside, the fact that it has done all this, joined the $1 billion club, did it as fast as it did, and all that kind of stuff, during a context in which we are still feeling the effects of the pandemic. There are still a lot of people, that Variety report told us, that have still not started going back to the movie theaters yet. That's huge. There are still a lot of places around the world where movie theaters are not open or are opened in limited capacity. Even in North America, some markets still have limited capacity. You know, some markets have their theaters closed altogether right now. And yet in the midst of all of that, and an Omicron thing and everything, in the midst of all that, Spider-Man No Way Home reaches $1 billion, joins that $1 billion club. I feel like, I don't know, Kevin Feige and some others should be there. It's kind of like the Masters of Golf. They should have a green jacket getting ready to put on John Watts. Welcome to the $1 billion club. Your film did it. Congratulations. The fact that it has done it in these circumstances is nothing short of phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And it gets even more interesting about that. Anyway, this comes to us from the folks over at Variety who write this. Spider-Man No Way Home unwrapped the best Christmas gift of all, becoming the first pandemic-era movie to cross $1 billion at the global box office. Sony's comic book epic has eclipsed that milestone in a near-record 12 days, tying with 2015 Star Wars The Force Awakens as the third fastest film to reach the $1 billion benchmark. Only 2018's Avengers Infinity War and 2019's Avengers Endgame were quicker, smashing the coveted tally in 11 and 5 days. That number's ridiculous.
That's freaking insane.
5 days.
5 days.
For Endgame. For a coveted tally in 11 and 5 days, respectively. So, again, back to this whole point of do not let this go over your head. Yay, it is the third fastest movie ever to make $1 billion. That's huge. It did it during the context that we're in, which just adds to the insanity of it all. Now, I read some opinion pieces online that raise some valid points, I get, saying, you know, Spider-Man had the advantage of being like that first true tentpole blockbuster to come out in almost 2 years. So sure it was going to, I mean, that's true. I get that. But I think that advantage is easily drowned out by the mountain of disadvantages it also had piled against it. The pandemic era, not everything is open, but the fact that it wasn't open in China and stuff like that. I just think it makes the accomplishment all the more impressive. Like all the more impressive. It is crazy what this thing has done. And get this, in its second weekend, it dropped almost 70%. It dropped 68 point something percent. Now, I did touch on this last week before the weekend. Now look, we normally say that you want your second weekend to drop somewhere between 50 and 60%. That would be considered a normal drop off from weekend 1 to weekend 2. If you can have less than a 50% drop off, that's amazing. But I said you can't apply that rule the way you normally would with a movie that would makes over like $150 million in opening weekend, because now you're talking about a movie that everybody went to go see opening weekend.
Yeah.
And in the case of Spider-Man No Way Home, you're not just talking about $150 million worth of people opening weekend. You're talking about $250 million worth of opening weekend people. So I said last week, expect a larger than normal second weekend drop off because that is normal for a film that has such a huge opening. And sure enough, Spider-Man No Way Home came in, I think, like a 68.5% drop. And some people try to point at that as a negative thing. And I say, well, then you just don't understand box office. You just don't understand box office if you thought that was a big negative thing.
Yeah.
But I also want to point this out. Even with, get this, a nearly 70% drop, it still made enough money on its second weekend to be the second biggest opening weekend in the pandemic era. It still made over $80 million in its second weekend. Oh, I believe, I might be off by 1 or 2 million, but I believe only Venom 2 had a bigger opening weekend than Spider-Man No Way Home's second weekend. So yeah, it had nearly a 70% drop. Sure, but it still made over $80 million in its second weekend, which would put, if that was its opening weekend, again, that would make it, I believe, the second biggest opening in the pandemic era. That's beyond impressive. It's beyond impressive. I mean, nowhere near Endgames, but who cares? What Spider-Man No Way Home has been able to accomplish in these dark times, giving a ray of hope to movie theaters, because I'll tell you what, when Ann and I went back to theaters again, like we saw Spider-Man No Way Home again this weekend, we saw Macbeth. By the way, oh my God, the tragedy of Macbeth. Go watch it. Anyway, all other acting in the world you realize is utter shit, and you've just been thinking it's good. And then you watch Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand and Macbeth, and you're like, yeah, everything else is crap. Anyway, but we're in these movie theaters, and like, I'm thinking I'm going to grab some Reese's Pieces. Oh, no, man, we're out. You're out. Okay. Ann wants some peanut M&Ms. No, man, we're out. You're out. Okay, I'm going to get some of my Coke Zero. Oh, Coke Zero says it's out. I had to get frickin' vanilla Coke. That crap tastes horrible. Like, that sounds pretty good, but I'm telling you right now, that crap nasty. Is horrible. But it's like they had all this, like they were just short on everything. They experienced such a flood of business and so many people coming in. They were selling out of crap. Even their regular straws were out. They had to use these backup straws.
I mean, it was just, In-N-Out straws.
It was extra. Go get extra. Yeah, they went over to the McDonald's and just grabbed handfuls of napkins and brought them over. But it just, this effect of Spider-Man No Way Home has been insane. Now, Kim, in this room, there was one of us that didn't think it would hit 250, and there was one of us who thought it would hit 250. You were that person. It did. But you're seeing these total numbers now. It hits $1 billion in 12 days. 12 days. 12 tying The Force Awakens. I mean, nothing's ever going to hit Endgame. I mean, that Endgame number is never going to be matched. But, I mean, you see these. What's your first impression when you see that number hit? And what do you think the overall, what message can we take out of this, do you think?
First of all, my first thought is, well, duh. I'm like, you can't doubt it, because I understand what's against it. I mean, we're not out of the woods yet with this pandemic.
No,
we're almost,
not at all.
We're actually back to some of our old habits. We're back to our masks, constantly, which some people in your area might be like, yeah, no, in our area, we were free of masks for a long time. Now we're back. I was a little worried, like, oh gosh, I'm hearing our friends in the Netherlands, was it?
Netherlands,
they were like,
provinces in Canada.
We can't see it till the 14th. We can't see it till here, till there. This says so much about not just the fan community, but as human beings. We don't just love movies, we love experiences.
Yeah.
We love having these moments in the theater. Is what I think's going to happen. Oh my gosh, I'm grabbing the person next to me. Oh my gosh. It's like a roller coaster. You'll stand in line for 3 hours just to have that little sector of time where you feel like you're on top of the world, and it's worth it. It's 1 billion times worth it. And so it is no surprise to me, because also as Omicron was like creeping in, I think something else we're not talking about is there was this creeping feeling of, let me get to the theater before they close it.
Yeah.
That was another thing. It wasn't just the day oneers that are like, oh, Marvel, Spider-Man, I'm day one. There was other people that became day oneers because they're like, looking behind them and on the phone to their friends that are going, girl, my theater just got crushed, going, let me get to the movies while it's open. So there are certain things with the pandemic that actually worked in Spider-Man's favor.
Right.
And I think that's another interesting thing. And also it's like we can feel the window closing. You know, I'm hearing things about school. I'm hearing a lot of things. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but there's something about saying, you know what? This movie's important to me. I gotta get to the theater. And like we said before, John, our viewers, the fan community did not buy one ticket.
No,
they did not
bought 2 or
buy
3.
one ticket. 2, 3, 4. How many? So many people.
Yeah.
I've seen it 3 times, you know, but we have our people that were like, hey, John, I got my ticket. And the next day.
Yeah.
And the morning and the night for that one. Have a good day.
The 31st, the 2nd,
Come
and the 4th.
on now. Yeah.
It was huge.
I still got to see it one more time.
Oh, I thought you were about to say, I was going to see. I'm like, Ray, you do realize you saw it with me.
No. I still got to see it one more time. I wanted to see it this past weekend, but to go off of what Kim was saying, like the Philippines don't get to see it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, so there might be another uptick in the following weeks when those start opening again. Hopefully, if they could get to the theaters.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens there. But again, guys, unbelievable. It hits $1 billion in 12 days.
Wow.
12 days in the circumstances.
And now
that
it's
we're
right
in.
under Endgame. Is that right?
No, it's under.
Or is it?
It's under a couple of things.
Okay.
So it ties with The Force Awakens.
Okay, it tied with them.
It's
Okay.
under Infinity War and it's under Endgame.
Okay, that's where I wanted to know where it fell.
Absolutely remarkable stuff.
Nice.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this Spider-Man hitting $1 billion, joining that $1 billion club in just 12 days? Whatever you guys are feeling about it, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.